Say it with me, gang. We never pay people money to publish our books. We do not pay editors. We do not pay agents. They are scamming you. You never pay them. They get paid when you get paid. That's how it works. Yeah, the answer is yes. Oh my God, I look like a mad scientist. Okay. Yeah, it is really scary to have an unpredictable career. Fortunately, this is the career I've had for a long time. This is pretty much the only kind of career I know. So that unpredictability and instability is normal to me. That's my normal, is not really knowing what kind of money you're going to make in a year, or how much money you're going to make in 5 years, or what your plan is going to be, or where you're going to be in 5 years. My parents were both school teachers, so they had very stable jobs, like extremely stable. So that's what I saw growing up. But in my own experience, I've only ever experienced this. So it is my normal. I almost don't know what the other side is, what the greener pastures are. So I guess that's good. I have to take care of, my own retirement, my own insurance, that kind of thing. But I always have had to. I am getting married, so I will be in a dual income household, and my partner does have an extremely stable job. So I guess in terms of backup plan, I guess that counts. If I were to have my own personal backup plan, my background is in film and screenwriting. I don't know if transferring to another version of creative writing would be considered a backup plan for if the writing career fails, but yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Going forward, I will be on my partner's health insurance, and that's very much a great safety net to have. But for right now, it's me. But going forward, it's very weird to think that I will have a support system that isn't just on me. It's nice too, but I don't know what that's going to look like yet. And don't worry, I am very pro prenup, so is he. We are all set on that front. Hi, great question. This is a question I see asked a lot. This is a question I have also seen answered, I think, in a way that is really irresponsible. So my blanket answer, and the answer I'm going to give most of you, is no. Unless you fall into that very, very privileged few who have family money, a spouse who can support you, a way to get health insurance. If you can afford to quit your job and write, go for it. Great. You are so lucky. I technically fell into that group, even though I didn't have a job to quit. I was in that weird little space between the end of college and when my loans were going to kick in, and I was able to move back in with my parents and be on their health insurance. So I had that gap of time where I could afford to be a full-time author without making any money. But normally that's not the case, and I think for 99.9% of people who are aspiring authors, they're not in positions where they can quit their job and go full tilt. I have been on panels, I have seen authors give this advice and say, you just got to quit your job and go for it, while also knowing behind the scenes that author is from family money or has a spouse who can support them, and that's not discussed. So just be aware of that. Whenever you see that kind of advice, try and apply it to your situation in your own life, because we don't know what that is. We know what we've been through and what we have been able to tolerate and push through and make work for ourselves, but we don't know what that is for you. You are the only person who can make that decision. So no, I will never tell anyone quit your job and become a full-time writer, because I don't know what your financial situation is. I don't know what your family situation is. I don't know if you've got kids at home. So no, this is not something I can tell you to do. And if another author tells you to do it, please be aware of where they're coming from and make sure that background gels with what you have as well. For right now, I buy it. I've bought it since I went off my parents' insurance when I turned 26 and Obamacare no longer covered me. Or not Obamacare, but the Affordable Care Act meant that my parents' insurance could no longer cover me. So I, as a self-employed individual, have been purchasing my own health insurance since then. In my privileges video, I should have mentioned this. I will be joining my partner's insurance when we get married. So I'm really looking forward to that. One might say I'm marrying him for the health insurance. Good morning. Thank you for your question. It is very clearly the first thing in the morning. In my understanding, beta readers or CPs are not sensitivity readers or authenticity readers, which is the other thing I've heard to describe them. Beta readers and CPs are more for the actual content of the story when you're creating it. So a lot of people will send chapters or they'll send a draft to another author or to a reader who is mainly there to service the story, whereas the sensitivity readers and authenticity readers are there to read the story looking for sensitivity issues or authenticity issues. They're two different kinds of readers. I do use sensitivity or authenticity readers. I have used them for the entire Realmbreaker series. I should have used them in Red Queen. They weren't so much a thing during that series when it was coming out, but I'm really happy to have them now. They've been really helpful and really encouraging with Realmbreaker.
Is to always be careful about who you're taking advice from.
To paraphrase Chloe in a less elegant way, be careful what you listen to and who you listen to, because a lot of people in this industry, or a lot of people aspiring to be in this industry, talk out of their asses. I will also say, to add on to that excellent advice, be aware of the background of the person giving you the advice, because there are a lot of authors who will say, I quit my job and I bet on myself and I did it. Great. They're also not going to tell you that like their parents or their partner is able to support them. So just do your due diligence. Maybe it'll work out for you. That's totally fine. But just be aware of who you're taking advice from and what their background looks like, because they might be totally different from you and you might not be in the same situation. And I don't want them to make you feel bad because you can't do what they did because your backgrounds are different, if that makes any sense. I'm going to make this really simple and really fast. Your agent only makes money when you make money. In publishing, the standard is 15%. So if you say make $10, your agent gets $1.50 out of that $10. Usually your agency is the one handling your payments and your monies anyways, so they take it out before it gets to you. You are never writing your agent a check. You are never sending your agent money. It is all done pretty directly. Don't ever pay an agent out of pocket. They're scamming you. They're not real agents. They're not going to help you. Agencies and agents on the entertainment side of things are a different standard, a different amount of money, but for publishing, 15%. And in my opinion, that 15%, they are worth every single penny of. I love my agent, I love my agency, and I would not be where I am in my career without them. And it's a little bit different for foreign rights because the foreign rights agent also takes a percentage. So now I'm going to explain why I have to use Microsoft Word at a certain point in the process, because everything I do with Microsoft Word is against my will. I do use Scrivener for the drafting process. When I am writing the first draft of the book, I use Scrivener. It's fantastic. I have no complaints. It's particularly amazing if you're writing a book with multiple point of views, which I am. It's awesome to see outlines. It's awesome to see word count and your progress. I love everything about Scrivener. Now, when you move on past that first draft and you're in the editing stage, unfortunately, this is where the incredibly necessary, incredibly evil Microsoft Word comes in. So Microsoft Word is unfortunately still the industry standard, and that is because Microsoft Word has something called track changes, which allows you to see all of the minute shifts and additions and subtractions to the draft through the process. And it's color-coded. It's useful in what it does, but it can't function well, especially when you're writing something like a manuscript. It's not designed to handle the amount of words that we authors use. That's not who Microsoft Word is originally designed for. It's not for us. It's not for 150,000 word manuscripts, let alone fantasy manuscripts that have made up words that essentially, when you get to a certain point, you guys know the spell check just crashes and doesn't work because every word needs to be spell checked. Now add on top of that track changes, which is another function that is running at the same time as everything else, and it's trying to track all of the shifts, all of the edits in a 150,000 word document. It's a lot. And I see all the little, like, you should use Google Docs. I'm not going to get into like the security and safety of that, but I can't do 500 pages in Google Docs. It doesn't work. It does not work. And then when you're doing it for the editing reason, it doesn't work either. So unfortunately, until somebody figures out a better program that uses all the good things of Microsoft Word and none of the... I'm just thinking of the moment where like a teapot is steaming. I think that's what my Microsoft Word is constantly at now. None of that. None of the rainbow pinwheel, none of the freezing, none of the shutdowns, none of the I can no longer do what you need me to do to this document. Oh, you're only halfway through? That sucks. If someone can remove that, that would be great. So if you're a programmer or a developer, there is a market. There is a market for a new industry standard of editing manuscript software. Please help us. Not too personal of a question. This is a great question. Quick reminder, I am what's called a traditionally published author, which means my book is published by one of the bigger physical publishing houses. I'm not an indie author, I'm a traditional author, so I can speak to the traditional author experience. The way we are paid is different than the way indie authors are paid. So there are two ways I get paid. And the second way is not guaranteed, and a lot of authors never hit that second way to get paid. The first way is the advance. So to make things simple, the publisher offers $10,000 for your book. And you usually get that paid out in 4 installments. The first installment, $2,500, is when you sign the contract. The second installment, $2,500, is when you deliver the manuscript and it is accepted by the publisher, which usually means when it goes to copy edits, when the story is pretty locked. And the only things changing are little things. The third installment, the next $2,500, is when you publish the hardcover. And then the fourth installment is one of two things. It's either when the paperback is published or 12 months after the hardcover. That second one, the 12 months after the hardcover, that's a little bit harder to negotiate for, and I did not get that on my first 3 books because I had no clout as an author. And then it protects you from if the publisher takes a longer time to publish the paperback, which they sometimes do with books that are very successful. So they want to keep them in hardcover because they cost more. Now, of that advance, of course, a percentage goes to your agency. You should never pay your agent. You should never pay your editor. Their money only comes when you make money. The editor doesn't touch anything I make. The agent gets a percentage of what I make. I never pay her. She only makes money when I make money. That's a good rule of thumb to remember. And then the second way you get paid is royalties. Now, royalties means you only start earning royalties when you earn out of that advance. So that $10,000 you need to earn back based on whatever percentage you are making from the book. So to make things simple, let's say your book is $20 and you're making 10%. An author can make anywhere between 8 and 15% depending on how much strength you have in negotiation or how good your agent is. So say you're making 10% of a $20 book, you earn $2 for every book that is sold. You need to earn $10,000 in those $2 before you will see a royalty check. And then from that point on, you are considered having earned out on the book and you make money when people buy it. But up until that moment, you are still working against that advance, which is why exorbitant advances can sometimes be like a burden on a book because it's impossible to earn out. And depending on your situation, it's better to have the money up front or better to have the money long term. Who knows? Also, we have to remember taxes.